We are here over at Canon HQ for a pre-disclosure look at the new Canon EOS R1 and the R5 Mark II. I'm very excited to have been given the opportunity to get a first look at both of these cameras. As an avid Canon shooter myself, shooting with Canon's lineup of cameras over the past 15 years, with my current setup being the Canon R5, I'm very excited to see what Canon have in store with these two new additions. I'm very lucky to have both cameras here in my hands right now, the Canon R1 and the R5 Mark II. Both hugely exciting cameras which take a big step forward in many areas for Canon's hybrid cameras. Stack sensors, improved eye control focus, autofocus tracking improvements. High-end photographers will be very happy here. But the main thing that has caught our eye in the past couple of hours we've spent with the cameras is how many improvements Canon have made for those shooting video, including some things we've all been wanting to see in Canon's hybrid cameras for years. These are very early pre-production models running on beta firmware, so we can't really put them to the test too much. However, Canon have kindly said that we can share some of these videos with you. In this video, we're going to focus on the key features and improvements Canon have made for those shooting video. One of the most obvious steps forward is in the frame rates. The R1 can do 6K at up to 60p, just like the R3, and the R5 Mark II can now do 8K 60p, just like the R5C, but without the need for an external power source. All of this in regular codecs and also RAW on both cameras, which is very impressive. Then in lower resolutions, you can get up to 4K 120p and even HD 240p for much slower motion when needed. These cameras fix something that has long been one of our biggest feature requests for Canon hybrid cameras. They have always been fairly limited in terms of codec options, and even automatically swapped you behind the scenes from H.264 to H.265 when you turn log on or off. Well, not here. On both of these cameras, you get a hugely extensive list of codec options. There's RAW, intraframe, long GOP, and the new H.265 codec, XF-HEVC-S, which we first saw on the new Canon C400. All of these are available whether you are in log or not, which is such an improvement on previous cameras. Not only do you have control over which codec to use, you also get a multiple quality and data rate options for each of them. In RAW, you get the HQ, ST, and LT modes, which we have seen on multiple cameras now. But even in the standard XF-AVC-S MP4 codec, you have a high quality, standard, and light options as well. So the list of available data rates in these cameras is pretty impressive. Plus, because these are the new codecs from the C400, you will get that improved file naming structure, and it will match between these and the C400. Perfect for using them when paired together as an A and B camera. This one could be one of the biggest improvements on the list. Canon have added C-Log 2 as an option for both cameras. This wasn't possible on the R3, R5, or even on the R5C, none of which Canon said had enough dynamic range from their sensor to properly capture C-Log 2. Well, here, with the new BSI stack sensors on both cameras, we now have C-Log 2. Canon say both cameras have big improvements in dynamic range. It's too early to test the dynamic range on these, but I doubt they would have added it if the sensors were not capable of it. So these could both have the most dynamic range we've ever seen from a Canon mirrorless camera. Canon have been putting false color into their cinema cameras for a while now, and it's by far my favorite way of exposing. They first added this into the R6 Mark II, and now it's here on the R1 and the R5 Mark II. Plus we also get a waveform monitor as well. And there's all the normal ones like zebras and histogram. This is the cinema camera levels of exposure tools built into photographic mirrorless cameras. And this is a really big deal. This is more tools than Panasonic give us on the S5 Mark IIX, certainly more than Sony give us on the FX30 or FX3, Even the FX6, FX9 and the Burano don't have false color. Then there's Blackmagic, who give you false color, but not waveform monitors in most of their cameras. The more exposure tools in the camera, the better. So this is a very welcome feature. Because both cameras have backside illuminated stack sensors, they also have reduced rolling shutter effects. Canon don't say how much, and it's too early for people to do actual scientific tests, but we did do the good old-fashioned pan around, and they don't look too bad. Canon really seem to be paying attention to the rolling shutter performance with their recent cameras, which is very nice to see. This next one is a very simple one that should have been on all of Canon's previous cameras, and my biggest bugbear on my R5. Both the R1 and the R5 Mark II now support a full-size HDMI port, which I'm sure many of you will be happy about. All of Canon's previous lineup of cameras, the R5, the R3, the R6 Mark II, and so on, have all supported a micro HDMI port, which when using an external monitor without a cage and a cable support is something you always have to be a little careful with. One of the main areas of improvement in both cameras as a whole is the autofocus performance. Canon are calling it their dual pixel intelligent autofocus technology. And this is just as useful, of course, in video work as it is in photography. Both cameras have improved subject tracking modes, face priority registration, upper body tracking, and their new AI-driven action priority modes. But the R1 actually gets one of the biggest technical steps forward in Canon's autofocus technology in years. Basically, up until now, Canon cameras have been reading the image in horizontal lines, and the R1 can read the image both horizontally and vertically, which should dramatically improve how well the autofocus system can tell when it's in focus, especially on low contrast and hard to focus subjects. Canon also say they have improved the image stabilisation, up to 8.5 stops. All of these shots are handheld with the 24-70mm f2.8 IS. It's no real surprise that both cameras have Canon's new MI chute on top. But as it wasn't on the original R5, I thought it was worth mentioning as it is a very useful thing to have, giving you access to accessories like the XLR unit from Tascam. So all in all, the new R1 and R5 Mark II represent one of the biggest steps forward for video features we have seen in Canon's hybrid cameras for a long time. These are obviously early samples, so we are looking forward to putting each of them through their paces properly once the final production versions of each camera are available. But for now, pre-orders are open at ProAV, and let us know what you think of each camera in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.